Hello, today we're going to be talking about addition story problems and some strategies that we can use to help us solve those problems. I'm going to read the story problem that you see on your screen, and as I read this, I want you to visualize, see in your head the story that's taking place through this problem. Rosa and Sam were playing with the GeoBlocks. Rosa had 4 blocks. Sam had 4 blocks. They worked together to make a building with all of the blocks. How many blocks did they use? All right, let's think about that problem. All right, how many blocks did they start with? All right, we know that Rosa and Sam were playing with GeoBlocks and that Rosa had 4. All right, what else do we know about this story problem? We know that Sam also had 4. Okay, let's continue. What did they do with these blocks? All right, they put their blocks together, didn't they? They put them together to make a building with all of the blocks. So let's think of our question. How many blocks did they use? Well, let's think. Are they going to have more than 4 blocks at the end? Or would they have less than 4 blocks at the end? Okay, they're going to have more than 4 blocks at the end. So let's look at some different strategies that we can do to help us solve this problem. First, let's write an addition equation. So we know that they're going to have more than 4 blocks. So since they're going to have more, we know we're going to be adding. So let me go over here and we'll pick up a pen. And we're going to write an equation. So Rosa had 4 blocks. Now remember the symbol we use for addition? Do you remember that symbol is called the plus sign? All right, and Sam had 4 blocks. So we're going to be adding because we said we're going to have more than 4 at the end because they used all of the blocks. All right, so then we're going to put the equal sign to find out how many blocks they used. Let's think about some strategies that we can use. One strategy we might use is called counting all. So I'm going to draw some lines to represent Rosa's blocks. And then I'm going to draw some lines to represent Sam's blocks. And I'm going to count them. Whoops. See if I can make that 8 look a little bit better. Okay, so one strategy is called counting all, where we counted Rosa's blocks and we counted Sam's blocks, and that showed us how many blocks we had in all, which is 8. Another strategy is called counting on. So we could start with our blocks that Rosa has. So I'm going to put a 4. And I'm going to count on 4 more because that's how many blocks Sam has. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to draw 4 lines to represent Sam's, and I will put the numbers. I have trouble making that 8. Okay, so when we counted all, we got 8 as our answer, and when we counted on, we got 8 as our answer. Now, you may just know in your heart already that 4 plus 4 equals 8. You did not need to count on or count all because you had that in your heart. So if you just know it in your heart, you might just want to draw a heart. So what would be our sum? If they used all of their blocks they would have used 8, right. So we have 8 blocks. And another important part when you are adding or when you are working with word problems is to put your label. And your label is what it is that you are trying to find out. And here we're trying to find out how many blocks did they use. You can always find that in your question. And we know that they used 8 blocks. All right, let's look at another problem. All right, as I read this word problem, I want you to see it in your head so you can think about what's going on in this word problem. Jake and Louisa were playing with the geo blocks. Jake had 4 blocks. Louisa had 5 blocks. They worked together to make a building with all of the blocks. How many blocks did they use? Well, let's think about this. Jake and Louisa are playing with the geo blocks just like Sam and Rosa. Jake has 4. Louisa has 5. They used these blocks together to make a building, and they used all of the blocks. And we want to know how many blocks did they use? Well, let's think. Are they going to have more than 4 blocks? Or are they going to have less than 4 blocks? Correct. They're going to have more than 4 blocks if they put their blocks together. So we're going to write an addition equation. So we'll go over here and pick up a pen. And Jake had 4. And since they're going to have more, we're going to add, and we're going to use our symbol for addition, which is called the plus sign. And Louisa has 5. And we want to know, what does that equal? How many blocks will that be in all? So we're going to put the equal sign. So let's think about our strategies. Remember, we can count all. And Jake has 4. So I'm going to put 4 for Jake. And Louisa has 5. So I'm going to draw 5. And I'm going to count those. It's always good to write your numbers underneath to make sure you haven't made a mistake of putting too many or not enough. Okay, so this time we have a sum of 9. Okay, that's one strategy, and that's called counting all. Another strategy could be called counting on. Now we could start with 4 or we could start with 5. It does not matter in addition which number we start with. I typically like to start with the larger number. So I'm going to start with the 5. Because in addition, it does not matter which number you start with. And I'm just going to add 4 more lines. If you start with a higher number, you don't have as many lines to write. All right, so if we count on, we have 5, and right after 5 comes the number 6, and then 7, and 8, and 9. All right, so once again, we get the sum of 9. Now, you can also use a combination that you know. So if you remember from the last problem, we saw that 4 plus 4 equaled 8. So we can take that combination that we know and help us to solve this problem. So since we know that 4 plus 4 equals 8, and we know that 4 is 1 more than 5, what does that tell us about our sum? Well, our sum would be 1 more also, right? Because 8 plus 1 more, we have 1 more than 5, right? Excuse me, 1 more than 4. So 8 plus 1 would equal a sum of 9. So our answer is 9. And since I don't have room here, I'm going to write blocks underneath. So because an important part of writing and solving word problems is putting that label. So we're going to say 9 blocks. So let's go back and review. Let's go back and look at number 1. We did the strategy of counting all. We did the strategy of counting on. Or you might just know it in your heart that 4 plus 4 equals 8. All right, and then with the second problem, we used the strategy of counting all. We used the strategy of counting on, and I started with the larger number, so I did not have to count as far. I also used a combination that I know. I know that 4 plus 4 equals 8, and that I keep on saying 4. 5 is one more than 4. So I can take my sum of 8, add one more, and I have a sum of 9. So when you are writing a word problem, when you are solving word problems, you've got a couple of pages of word problems, I believe, to do today. Don't forget, show me your addition equation, or show me your equation, show me the strategy that you used, and don't forget your label.